An incredible waitress transformed an old man's life. Then 4 bodyguards revealed his hidden truth. The bell above the door jingled as Mr. Thompson shuffled into the diner, more ghost than man. At 82, the weight of life had hollowed him out, his clothes frayed, the eyes once bright now weary, hidden stories swirling beneath. Only a cup of coffee was all he could offer for breakfast, a solitary comfort in a world that had forgotten him. Ruth, the diner's heartbeat, caught sight of him through the early morning light filtering in, casting soft halos on the worn linoleum. Her infectious smile erupted. To Ruth, Mr. Thompson was not just another customer but a heart in need of warmth. She slid a steaming cup of coffee before him, the steam swirling upward like a whispered promise. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. How about a hot pancake on the side today?" she asked, brightness spilling from her voice. His lips cracked into a slight smile, barely breaking the layers of gray hanging around him. "Just the coffee, Ruth," he murmured, his voice gravelly but somehow soothing. Ruth nodded and began to pour a second cup, hoping maybe today it would be different. With every cup she passed, Ruth learned not just about his past, but the essence of kindness. He talked of his youth, tales of laughter behind enemy lines, and the bittersweet taste of freedom. For those moments, the diner glowed with the richness of their connection. And as Ruth watched Mr. Thompson's eyes lighten, she felt the heavy weight of her own struggles lift a tad. She was raising 2 kids alone, working grueling shifts, but here was proof that good things could still emerge from tired souls. But tension swept through the diner like a cold draft in winter, as whispers began about Mr. Thompson's life, hints of secrets, mistrust swirling among the patrons. The old man's past cast elongated shadows. Ruth watched as customers whispered and stared, their smiles fading. Then, on that fateful Tuesday, the door swung open wide. 4 imposing bodyguards in dark suits stormed in, casting a long shadow across the sunlit diner. Conversations came to a screeching halt. Customers eyed Mr. Thompson, a ripple of fear, curiosity, and a hint of concern swept through the room. Ruth's heart raced, her protective instincts flaring. "What are they doing here?" she thought. "What's going on, Ruth?" A regular named Maggie whispered, voice quivering. "Just let me talk to him," she replied, her resolve toughening. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Ruth stepped towards Mr. Thompson, who seemed to wither even smaller under the scrutinizing gazes of the bodyguards, the diner transforming into a courtroom. Ruth could feel the weight of judgment, the air thick with accusations unvoiced. Could the truth unravel the humanity they had just begun to discover? She needed to act fast to shield Mr. Thompson, to rally the community that had once embraced him. She glanced back at the diners who had once shared laughter, now mired in suspicion. "He's part of us, just like any of you," she began, her voice trembling yet steady. Yet, deep down, Ruth felt the battle brewing. Could compassion defeat the weight of prejudice? The heart of their community was battling against a wall of perception, and all eyes were on her as they awaited a revelation that could either heal or shatter them all. Ruth took a deep breath, her heart hammering in her chest. She had never been one to shy away from confrontation, but this felt different. This was about Mr. Thompson, a man who had shared pieces of his heart with her over coffee, a man who deserved understanding not judgment. "Please, everyone," she spoke louder, summoning the courage that felt faint. "Mr. Thompson may have a past, but he's here with us now. He's not a threat. He's just a man trying to find a little peace in his twilight years." A murmured discussion rippled through the diners, but eyes were still fixed on the old man, scanning him for evidence of whatever mingled within his shadows. "Who are they?" A voice barked from the back, this time a spirit burdened by deep-seated mistrust rather than genuine worry. Ruth felt the tension coil tighter, a snake ready to strike. "They're just here to check on him, right, Mr. Thompson?" Ruth offered, looking intensely at the elderly man, whose gaze seemed clouded and distant. His hands trembled gently, betraying the steady resolve she wished he had. He stuttered, his voice lost in space, teetering between the weight of old memories and the fear of the moment. "Mr. Thompson?" Ruth prompted gently. "You can tell us. We're here for you." Long time ago there were things. His hand trembled as he fumbled with his cup, the coffee splashing slightly. A few patrons flinched at the sight. The bodyguards, in their dark suits, exchanged glances, their unfazed demeanor unnerving Ruth. They had invaded their space, disrupted their sanctuary. Faces turned, eyes narrowed not with curiosity but with judgment. Ruth's stomach twisted. This was not just an outing, this was a test. "Mr. Thompson." Ruth called again, desperation edging her voice. "You don't have to explain anything if you don't want to. We believe in who you are now." A weighty silence fell. It felt like time had stretched, and the diner, the heart of the community, hung in a delicate balance. A bodyguard stepped forward, a scowl creasing his forehead. "He's not who you think. He's linked to things you can't even imagine. He's hiding." "It doesn't matter," Ruth exclaimed, feeling her pulse through her temples. "Everyone has a story. You think any of us don't carry our own baggage?" Her eyes roamed the room, finding those reluctant faces buried in their plates, filled with doubt. "This man deserves kindness." The air vibrated with conflicting emotions, some faces softened, while others hardened with disbelief. "Kindness?" A man at the counter retorted, shaking his head. "What do you know about him?" "I know he means something to me," Ruth cried out, her voice steadying, filled with a fiery passion. "He comes here for coffee, and we talk like friends. That's what matters here and now, not what happened long ago." Mr. Thompson's eyes met hers, and for the first time that morning, a flicker of recognition came alive. Gradually, he straightened himself, touched by her fierce loyalty. Yet, the shadows of his past loomed large. Before he could speak, one of the bodyguards snapped, "We're here to protect you, old man. But you have to cooperate." The words hung like a heavy curtain, blocking the warmth of the morning sun. Ruth's heart sank, knowing the burden of silence could weigh as much as the truth. Just then, Mr. Thompson's lips parted. "I can't," he uttered, a tear slipping from the corner of his eye. "I can't go back to that life." Panic wrapped around Ruth. There was a battle on the horizon, the fight for Mr. Thompson's dignity and their fragile community's understanding. Her throat tightened as she felt the tide shift beneath her, and she realized that the truth could set them free, but it could also shatter everything. What would he reveal? Would it lead to redemption or destruction? With all eyes still rooted on them, Ruth sensed both hope and heartache looming in the air, threatening to change their lives forever. Mr. Thompson's voice faded, almost drowned out by the silence thick as fog in the diner. Ruth's heart raced, each tick of the clock hammered inside her chest, blending with the anxious murmurs around her. She held her breath, desperate for Mr. Thompson to find the words that had eluded him. "Please," she urged softly, her eyes pleading with him to break free from the chains of past shame. "We're here. You're safe." His gaze flitted across the room, from hesitant faces to the cold, impassive stares of the bodyguards. A hint of color returned to his face, and for the briefest moment, he looked less like an old man trapped in fear and more like the spirited storyteller she'd come to admire. I wanted so badly to be someone else." Ruth felt warmth bubble in her chest. "You can be, Mr. Thompson. You can be anyone you want right now." But the bodyguard stepped forward again, scaring the warmth away. "Stop. You're just digging a deeper hole. Trust us, Mr. Thompson. You want to live? Tell us who you are." An uproar broke out, voices raised in both defense and condemnation. Ruth felt her legs tremble as anger surged within her. This wasn't just about defending Mr. Thompson, it was about standing up against fear that gripped them all. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the din. The room fell to a hush, except for the sound of her own breath. Fear will ruin us all faster than any truth ever could. Some diners exchanged glances, wondering if she had lost it. But then she saw nods of agreement ripple through the crowd. We cannot let suspicion and resentment erode our community. Mr. Thompson deserves our trust, just like every single one of us. With every word, she sensed a shift. The grip of tension lightened, replaced by a tentative hope. Mr. Thompson seemed to swell with a little more life. He looked back at Ruth, his eyes shimmering with gratitude mixed with fear. I didn't mean for anyone to be hurt, he murmured. There were choices I thought I could escape. Escaping pain doesn't mean running from the truth, she replied gently. It means facing it, Mr. Thompson. Together. As he stared deeply into her eyes, Ruth could almost see pieces of a wall crumbling, brick by heavy brick. But doubt stole back in, creeping just beneath the surface. Then all at once, Mr. Thompson released a shaky breath, collecting himself, almost as if he had decided what his next step would be. Long ago, I was part of something that has haunted me. He clenched his fists, his fingers turning pale. I wanted to leave it all behind. I thought if I moved here, I could disappear with each passing moment. The air grew thick with anticipation. Ruth's heartbeats echoed in her ears, a pounding melody of anxiety and hope. Mr. Thompson, one bodyguard warned, his voice low and threatening, don't think for a second that they'll forgive you, but the diner erupted in an unexpected roar of defiance. We're not here to judge. We just want to understand. The renewed energy pulsed through the space, hearts beating with the desire to heal, rather than hurt. Mr. Thompson's face softened as he looked at the sea of faces that were beginning to embrace their shared humanity over fear. I thought I could leave all of it behind, but maybe it's time to face the music. Ruth felt strength swell inside her, realizing that Mr. Thompson was ready to unearth a truth that could change everything. She had believed in him, and in many ways, he had now begun believing in himself, too. But just as he was on the verge of speaking the truth or perhaps charting the course of history, one of the diners whispered loudly enough to break the crescendo. What are you hiding, Mr. Thompson? The question hung heavily in the air like a storm cloud, ready to unleash its fury. Ruth's gut twisted, knowing they were teetering on the edge of discovery. Would the truth bring freedom or collapse everything they had built together in this moment? As Mr. Thompson opened his mouth to reveal the shadows lurking behind him, the heavy silence quivered, sending tremors through the collective heart of the diner. What awaited them on the other side of that truth? Mr. Thompson inhaled deeply, the weight of his story pressing against his chest. The silence surrounding him was palpable, heavy with suspense and the fragile shimmer of hope. He shifted in his seat, his hands trembling slightly. Ruth leaned in, her compassion radiating like a lifeline. I was part of something terrible, he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. It was many years ago. I was young, naive, and desperate to belong. I fell in with the wrong crowd, and I did things I regret every day. A low murmur spread through the diner, disbelief and intrigue intertwining. Ruth could see Mr. Thompson's resolve slowly strengthening as he gathered the courage to speak. There was a gang. We thought we were invincible. But in our quest for power, we hurt people. His voice cracked, and he winced as the memories overwhelmed him. The bodyguards exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from skepticism to an unexpected curiosity. Ruth felt the tide washing over the diner, the atmosphere thickening with empathy. I sought forgiveness for what I did, Mr. Thompson continued, his eyes flickering with a mix of pain and determination. But I never found it. I moved here, thinking the past would stay buried. But deep down, I knew I was just hiding. He looked directly at Ruth now, his gaze pleading. I'm tired of hiding. Ruth felt her heart crack open. She could see the man beneath the layers of shame and guilt, a man desperate for redemption. You're not just running, she whispered. You're ready to stand up. The diners leaned closer, their breaths hanging in the air as Mr. Thompson revealed more. There was a robbery, a man was killed. I never pulled the trigger, but I was there. I didn't say anything when I could have done something. People don't see the scars of guilt, but they're my constant reminder, a weight I've carried alone. Gasps echoed through the diner as shock rippled across the crowd. Ruth felt a warmth rise in her chest, a connection forming through the shared acknowledgement of imperfection. "No one is defined by their past," she said softly, her voice trembling. "It's what we do now that matters." "You don't understand." The bodyguard interjected, raising his voice. "There are consequences. Can you even begin to comprehend the pain he caused? How can we trust him now?" Ruth met the bodyguard's anger with quiet conviction. "Trust is built in honesty, even when the truth is ugly. Mr. Thompson deserves a chance to mend." She turned to face the gathering crowd, drawing strength from their presence. "We've all stumbled in our lives. Each of us carries something that holds us back." Mr. Thompson nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes as he glanced around the room. He seemed to gather the energy of those willing to forgive, those ready to embrace the messy tapestry of human experience. "I want to make things right," he declared, his words almost igniting the air. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm no longer the man who ran. I want to help those I hurt. I can't change the past, but I want to fight for a better future." The atmosphere shifted, uncertainty followed by budding hope. The diners looked at one another, their uncertain expressions mingling with the raw emotion hanging in the air. But then, that same diner who had spoken before muttered again, "And what if this is just some twisted game? How do we really know you're sincere?" Ruth felt her heart drop. It was a valid concern. The air crackled, tension surging like electricity. She needed them to see beyond their fears, to trust this moment. "Sometimes vulnerability is the only way through," she implored. "One honest heart can inspire others to face their truths, too." With every gust of her words, Ruth realized they were at a crossroads, a moment that could fracture or forge connections. Mr. Thompson was holding on to something much larger than himself, but the question was still looming, swirling like a storm: would they have the bravery to step forward, facing their own shadows alongside him? As Ruth met Mr. Thompson's gaze, she felt their fates tangled together, suspended in the tension of possibility. What would it take to forge the bonds of trust from the ashes of sin? And just then, the diner door swung open with a crash, revealing a newcomer panting, wide-eyed, as if he had just run a marathon. "What's happening here?" he shouted, and all eyes turned to him, the air thick with questions that echoed all around. The newcomer stood in the doorway, breathless and wide-eyed, like a deer caught in headlights. His wild hair stuck up in all directions, and his shirt clung to him as if he had just sprinted miles. Ruth tried to read his expression but found only a frantic energy that sent a ripple of nervousness through the diner. "Who are you?" the bodyguard barked, stepping forward with an imposing presence. "I am Eric," he stammered, glancing at the diners who had been enraptured by Mr. Thompson's story just moments ago. "I overheard something from outside." "Is it true? About the past? Is he really?" "Come inside, take a seat," Ruth urged, motioning him forward, hoping to ease the tension that wrapped around the space. "You don't need to shout." He stepped inside, the door swinging shut behind him, and the atmosphere seemed to shift again. Eric looked at Mr. Thompson, confusion flickering in his eyes. "People are saying he is changing? What does that mean?" Ruth took a deep breath, sensing the crowd's collective focus on the new voice in the conversation. "Mr. Thompson is bringing his truth to light," she said gently. "He is seeking redemption, trying to mend from the scars of his past." "You honestly believe he can?" Eric's voice was tremulous, tinged with disbelief. "After everything? You all really think he deserves a second chance?" "I wish I could tell you it's easy," Mr. Thompson said, his voice shaky but resolute. "But it's not. I don't expect it, I just can't stay silent anymore. I need to own what I did." Ruth could see the battle within Eric. His brows furrowed, each word weighing heavily. His young face seemed to reflect the disbelief many others in the diner felt. Maybe it was easier to dismiss than to believe in change. "We're all human, Eric," Ruth said, reaching out to him. "It's not always about what you did, but about what you're willing to do now. You can either hold on to that skepticism or choose to see the courage in vulnerability. During the silence that followed, it was like the world outside the diner had faded away. The distant honks of cars and chatter from the street grew hushed, lost in the weight of the moment. The diners exchanged glances, hungry for resolution yet fearful of being hurt again. Eric crossed his arms, glancing from Ruth to Mr. Thompson and back again. What if he closes himself off again? What if he relapses? Then we're here for him, Ruth replied, her voice steady, the warmth of her conviction pushing against the doubt in the air. We're here to help him. That's what community means, doesn't it? Supporting each other through our struggles. Mr. Thompson's face brightened, just a fraction, as he watched the exchange unfold. I think I'd like to try, he said softly. With your help, I could actually want to become better. The empathy amongst the diners shifted, gathering momentum. Ruth noticed a nod from one of the women near the counter, and others followed suit, their expressions softening. But Eric stepped back further, uncertainty still thrumming through him. So, what is that going to look like, exactly? He pressed, almost desperate for clarity. How do you go from that to being someone worth trusting? The question hung, fragile but necessary. It was one thing to ask for forgiveness, but the path to redemption was murky at best. Just then, a voice piped up from a table in the back. Maybe it begins with a commitment to honesty, to accountability. That's a start, right? The highlight in the room filled with a smattering of murmurs of agreement. Yet, doubt still lingered like smoke in the air. Ruth felt the humidity of emotion clinging around them. There was something palpable at play, a rising tide of hope nestled against the cruel edges of remorse. The urgency of the moment pressed down on them all. Could they really take a leap of faith? Could Mr. Thompson break his silence and step into his future, hand in hand with those he wronged? As a flicker of understanding passed between Mr. Thompson and the diner, Eric found himself leaning forward, intrigued but still cautious. But just when the conversation began to deepen, another unexpected event jolted the space. The door swung open again, and this time it was not for someone seeking answers, but a group of rough-looking men who stepped in the shadows of Mr. Thompson's past. What's going on here? One of them growled. The tension crackled, and everyone tensed, unsure of what might happen next. Could this storm bring clarity, or would it tear them apart again? Ruth felt her heart race as the rough-looking men swaggered into the diner, their very presence igniting a wave of fear and uncertainty. Their hardened faces had weathered hard lives, and the air thickened with intimidation. She could practically feel everyone's collective breath held in anticipation. Who let him in here? The leader demanded, eyes narrowing at Mr. Thompson. Ruth's grip on the counter tightened. The moment felt as fragile as a blown glass ornament, poised on the edge of shattering. Please, it's not what you think, Mr. Thompson said, his voice steady though barely above a whisper. He clutched the edge of his table, but there was a spark of resolve behind those weary eyes. I'm trying to move forward, to make things right. The past doesn't just vanish, old man, the leader jeered, taking a step closer. You don't get to hide from what you've done. A wave of murmurs rippled through the diner as the other patrons glared at the intruders, uncertainty clouding their expressions. Could they really support Mr. Thompson when faced with the ghosts of his past? Why would you show your face here? Eric blurted, his body tensing. Ruth felt his disbelief radiating like heat waves. You can't just come back like nothing happened. Eric's question hung in the air, thick with tension. Ruth exchanged glances with Mr. Thompson, searching for any hint of response. It was clear that Eric needed to hear a reason, but the words had evaded Mr. Thompson. I'm not running anymore, Mr. Thompson finally said, searching the faces around him. I'm trying to face the consequences of my actions. It's what I deserve. The leader stepped forward and grinned, a predatory gleam in his eyes. You think they'll stick by you once they hear the truth? His voice dripped with venom. You think they're ready to carry the weight of your sins? Eric's face paled, and Ruth shot him an encouraging glance. He needed to see the truth in their community's support. We're more than our pasts. she asserted, her voice rising above the tension. What matters is the willingness to change and to grow. That's what we all need to believe in. The bodyguard's presence loomed like dark clouds above them. Ruth's heart raced as she thought about whether Mr. Thompson could withstand this confrontation. But as she looked around the room, she noticed people lifting their heads high, shaking off their fear. The regulars, their friends, were rallying together, and she could almost see the familiar ties binding them. "Let us hear it then," the leader challenged, crossing his arms. "Let us hear this big, brave plan for redemption you think you can sell." The air crackled with tension, but instead of retreating, Mr. Thompson stood tall. "Every life I affected," he began, voice unwavering, "is a step I need to take, one at a time. I will face each of those people. I will speak my truth." "Truth?" the man scoffed. "You think they'll trust a liar like you?" "I've been a liar and a coward," Mr. Thompson admitted, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But I cannot hide anymore. Not from my past, and not from the people in this room who have shown me more courage than I ever had." The diner fell silent, the tension palpable. Ruth felt her heart pounding, not with fear anymore, but with hope. There was something liberating about Mr. Thompson's words, something that felt like the beginning of real change. That was when Eric stepped forward, a trembling determination etched across his face. "If you're willing to confront your past, then maybe we can all learn something together." But before anyone could react, the leader hissed, "You think this is a joke? You're dancing with fire, old man." Just then, the door swung open again to reveal someone dressed in an expensive suit, eyes sharp and assessing. The tension shifted once more, a new current of uncertainty threading through the room. "Who's this?" Ruth thought, her heart sinking as the stranger approached. As the suited man stepped closer, a realization hit her. This wasn't just someone random, it was a figure from the shadows, perhaps even someone who could tip the balance of this confrontation between light and darkness. In that moment, the stakes felt higher than ever. Would they crumble under this pressure, or would they finally rise from the ashes of their past? Ruth couldn't shake the feeling that a revelation lay just ahead, waiting to change everything. Ruth's eyes widened as the suited man closed in, his sharp grin cutting through the dread that suffocated the diner. The air thickened with anticipation, drawing the attention of every pair of eyes fixated on this new arrival. Who was he? What role did he play in this unfolding drama? "Nice place you've got here," the man said, his voice dripping with a charm that felt dangerously out of place. He turned to the leader, the one stirring the chaos. "Is this where you come to collect on past debts?" The leader's demeanor shifted slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Ruth noted it instantly. A glimmer of opportunity. "Didn't he expect to see you here, Grayson?" the leader replied, tension creeping back into his posture. "I could say the same for you. This isn't a social gathering." Grayson shrugged, his eyes dancing from the tough guys to Mr. Thompson. "It certainly looks like a spirited reunion." He cast his gaze around, pausing on Ruth, and she felt a strange chill run down her spine. Was it a good chill or a bad one? She couldn't tell. Mr. Thompson seemed unfazed, though. His focus remained on the leader, but Ruth knew he declocked Grayson's arrival. Hope clashed with fear in her heart. Would this man help them turn the tide, or was he simply another player in a dangerous game? "You've dragged this man into the light, but everyone here knows shadows cling to the past," Grayson said, addressing the crowd without taking his eyes off Mr. Thompson. "What's your truth, old man? Are your words enough to set you free, or just a sweet song for an empty room?" Silence engulfed the diner as everyone waited for Mr. Thompson to respond. The tension was palpable, like watching a tightrope walker grasp for balance high above the ground. "I'm just a man trying to do better," Mr. Thompson said finally, his voice calm but resonating with raw honesty. "I've hurt people, yes. But I can't sit here in fear of those consequences forever. It's time for me to stand and own up." Ruth felt the fire of his determination. The tides had shifted, but would the others join in? Standing is one thing. Making amends is another, Grayson shot back. What do you have to offer? I can start by facing those I've wronged, Mr. Thompson continued, a tremor of conviction threading through his words. Each life, each soul I touched in a negative way. I'll seek them out and apologize. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. Ruth felt a wave of warmth budding in her chest. Each word was a thread binding hope back into the fabric of their community. Grayson's expression shifted as he processed the bold declaration, uncertainty creeping in. Your past doesn't just go away because you want it to, the leader interjected, anger renewed. And these people around you, they don't deserve the fallout from your mistakes. Murmurs brewed in the crowd, scattered expressions of doubt rising like steam from a boiling kettle. Ruth took a breath, her heart racing once more. This was a moment of truth, no one could deny it. Maybe they do deserve a chance, Eric spoke up, surprising everyone as he stepped into the circle of tension. Maybe we all do. There are lives we've all affected, good or bad. Together, we can choose healing over hatred. Before the leader could respond, Grayson let out a low chuckle, an unexpected twist of intrigue crossing his features. Ah, I see where this is heading. People banding together for a cause. It's romantic, but does romance pay the bills when the past comes to collect? From the back of the diner, there was a quick shout. We won't let fear silence us. One of the regulars stood tall, voicing the resolve of many. The voices in the diner began to swell, a chorus of support wrapped around Mr. Thompson as the atmosphere buzzed with rising momentum. But then Grayson's gaze turned to Ruth, an unsettling precision in his eyes. What about you, Waitress? Are you willing to risk everything for this old man's redemption? Ruth's heart thudded in her chest, the weight of the moment pressing down as everyone turned to her, waiting. Was her belief in hope and change enough to become a part of this unfolding story? With the eyes of the community on her, she took a deep breath, feeling the energy shift, and wondered if she was ready for the journey that lay ahead. Did she have the courage to stand up against the shadows herself? Ruth felt as if all eyes pierced through her, expectation mingling with desperation. Moments stretched like taffy, every heartbeat thunderous. The chatter in the diner faded into a faint echo as she contemplated the weight of Grayson's question. Did she really have the courage to step into the unknown? Maybe it's time we all face our truths, she finally said, her voice a little shaky but steadying with resolve. I don't know what redemption looks like for Mr. Thompson, but standing together seems like a good place to start. Her words hung in the air like an offering. A smattering of applause broke out, hesitant at first, but it quickly grew in volume, swelling through the crowd. The patrons around her nodded, inspired by her courage. Grayson's amused smile faltered slightly, though his eyes still glinted with challenge. You think it's that easy? He called over the increasing noise. A simple declaration, and the past washes away? You don't even know the depth of this man's failings. But Ruth squared her shoulders, finding strength in the solidarity blooming around her. I might not know all his failings, but I see the man who wants to change. Isn't that what matters? The words tumbled out, raw and full of hope. Grayson tilted his head, as though considering a puzzle. Ah, the power of hope. You're a real dreamer, aren't you? But dreams don't pay the price of real debts. The tension in the room was electric, a rubber band drawn tight. Ruth looked to Mr. Thompson, who met her gaze with grateful eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. I don't expect easy forgiveness, Mr. Thompson interjected, voice steady, but I do expect honesty. I want to own my past and invite others to tell their stories. I'm not the only one who has made mistakes. The diner erupted as several voices called out, We're with you. A wave of affirmation surged through the room, but the shadows lingered in Grayson's eyes. He took a step forward, frowning, clearly feeling the dramatic shift. Interesting strategy, he sneered. But do any of you know what you're risking? There are people who won't want to see you succeed. My associates here? He gestured to the men flanking him, their presence almost palpable in the rising heat. They hold a different kind of power, the kind that doesn't forgive or forget. The air around Ruth grew heavy, the words sinking into her like lead. Fear started to wrap its cold fingers around her heart. Then we'll face them together, she shot back, the defiance surprising even herself. If we stand united, how can they break us? A vulnerable pause hung in the air as murmurs ricocheted around the diner. The crowd began to rally, a chorus of affirmations igniting the atmosphere. You're braver than I thought, Grayson remarked, a hint of admiration creeping in as he studied Ruth. But bravery doesn't shield you from consequences. Before he could finish, a loud crash erupted near the entrance. The door swung open, slamming against the wall as a newcomer burst in, soaking wet and panting. Ruth! You've got to listen! He shouted, eyes wide with urgency. Silence enveloped the diner, everyone turning to face the bewildered newcomer. Ruth's stomach dropped. Who was this man? What news did he bear that could change everything? As she processed his presence, the tension in the room shifted once more, drawing the strands of uncertainty tighter. Grayson smirked, the sharpness in his eyes glinting, anticipation twinkling like a predator circling its prey. Ruth could feel the pivotal moment clawing near, the air electric with unanswered questions. What would this sudden arrival bring to their fight for redemption? With fear, hope, and an undeniable urgency, Ruth realized they were far from the end of this ordeal. As the man pushed through the crowd toward her, she braced herself for the truth that could either forge new paths or shatter them entirely. She had dared to stand, and now, the next step awaited. Would it take them closer to redemption, or sweep them further into chaos? The man's breathless gasp caught Ruth off guard. She could see the desperation etched across his face as he stepped closer, dripping water onto the diner's linoleum floor, creating a small puddle that reflected the buzzing overhead lights. Ruth, it's about Thompson, you have to hear this. His voice trembled, mixing urgency with fear, enchanting the audience hung on his every word like a lifeline. What do you mean? Ruth felt a knot twist in her stomach. What about Mr. Thompson? The chatter around them stilled as the newcomer glanced nervously at Grayson, the tension in the air nearly tangible. You don't know who he really is, he said, locking eyes with her. You think you're standing up for change, but the truth is darker than you could ever imagine. The crowd leaned in, trying to catch each word. Ruth's heart raced, uncertainty flooding in with the man's revelation. Was she putting herself and everyone else at risk for a con artist? His real name is Leonard Apter, and he's wanted for fraud, the young man continued, panic clawing at his voice. He has taken so much from others, and now he is trying to rewrite his story while dragging you into it. Gasps erupted throughout the diner. Ruth's eyes darted to Mr. Thompson, watching his expression fall as disbelief washed over him, then a shadow of anger. The warmth of hope she had felt moments before began to wither, and fear reared its head once again. Is this true? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady, but it cracked with disbelief. Mr. Thompson, is this about your past? Who are you really? Mr. Thompson's weathered face hardened. I admit I've made mistakes, but I've tried to make amends. That doesn't make me a criminal. His voice was steady, but panic flickered in the depths of his eyes. I'm no Leonard Apter. The newcomer scoffed, a smirk emerging. Admitting mistakes doesn't wash away the shadow of who you used to be. He stepped closer, causing the crowd to shift uneasily. You all think this is a heartfelt moment, but you're following a mirage. Grayson folded his arms, amusement dancing on his lips. Well, this is rich. A sprightly little altercation in our lovely diner. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. His words dripped with venom, seemingly eager to watch the dominoes fall. Ruth felt a rush of conflicting emotions. She had been so sure, so ready to fight for a better version of Mr. Thompson. But now doubt began to creep in. Was she truly fighting for redemption, or had she been blinded by hope? With a deep breath, she faced the crowd, her heart thundering in her chest. What do you all think? Are we going to let fear tear us apart? Or can we seek the truth, no matter how hard it may be? Silence lingered as her question hung in the air. Slowly, a few people nodded, mulling over the weight of her words, while others looked at one another, uncertainty written across every face. Tell us more, someone yelled from the back, breaking the tension. We deserve to hear everything. Tension rippled through the room like the distant sound of thunder. As groups began to murmur amongst themselves, Ruth realized this wasn't just about Mr. Thompson anymore. The stakes had risen. Ruth, the newcomer, pleaded, stepping closer. You're walking into a trap. I know you want to believe, but if you dig deeper, you'll find it's not what it seems. And in that moment, Ruth felt a palpable shift within her, a fading thread of certainty giving way to a creeping doubt. As Grayson's smirk widened, and the crowd buzzed, she knew the next step would alter their fate. Would she be brave enough to seek the truth, even if it shattered everything she believed? The weight of the decision loomed over her like a storm, ready to break. The silence shattered as Ruth's heart raced against the crescendo of uncertainty swirling around her. She faced the crowd, the air crackling with tension, each eyewitness hanging on her every word as if she could command the truth to appear. Listen, she called, desperation mingling with resolve as she sought to pierce the veil of suspicion threatening to engulf them. This isn't just about Mr. Thompson's past. It's about all of us, our stories, our mistakes. Don't we all carry ghosts we wish we could bury? The crowd shifted slightly, an electric tension rippling among them, tethered to both fear and hope. Talk about ghosts, Ruth, Eric's voice rose from the corner. But are you willing to bet our trust, our community, on a man who was part of something terrible? Ruth's throat tightened, the weight of his words plunging deep. She glanced at Mr. Thompson, whose expression was a mix of vulnerability and defiance. The warmth of connection they had built felt precarious now, teetering on the edge of collapse. Mr. Thompson, she called gently, her voice softening. You can't just allow this to drown you again. If you were Leonard Apter, we deserve to know. His eyes flashed, wet with emotion. I never wanted to hide. And I don't want to fight. I want to create something beautiful from my mistakes. Eric scoffed. Beautiful? Did you create anything but pain? Just then, Grayson leaned in, his voice low and calculated. A fragile truth is often more destructive than an iron lie. Are you really ready for this? Ruth couldn't shake the icy grip tightening around her heart. Were they truly facing the specter of a conman? The diner felt heavy, yet there was a flicker of warmth among the patrons, a shared sense of humanity that pulsated beneath the crumbling facade of fear. Then let us start here, Ruth declared, turning to face the confused faces surrounding them. What do we believe? Can we face the truth together? Or do we let it consume us one secret at a time? It took a moment, but slowly, heads began to nod. A sense of unity formed. She could feel it, a city of soft connections unfurling in the midst of chaos. Mr. Thompson, if you truly strive for something new, then we can be your ally, one diner said, a familiar face she hadn't seen stand up before. We can help, but you need to acknowledge your past fully. Can you? Mr. Thompson's voice wavered, vulnerability spilling out, the tremors of a man that had learned silence for too long. Can we all truly accept the broken pieces of each other? Ruth's breath caught in her throat. There was a collective nod slowly forming in that diner's air. Yes. We can show what it means to heal together. But Grayson's sneer hardened. You think that's enough? Healing? Renewal? I'll be the judge of that when the stakes are high. Ruth turned toward him, lifting her chin defiantly. True change isn't delivered with a guarantee. It's fought for by every person united in hope. Her words ignited a fire among the patrons, their embers of fear slowly being replaced with flickers of warmth and collective resistance. Then, the newcomer took a shuddering breath, his eyes softening. Maybe I came in too hot, but after what I witnessed, I just didn't want to see anyone fooled, not just by Thompson, but by the illusion we can't change our paths. Then maybe every one of us has something to amend, Ruth suggested, glancing over the crowd. The idea should not just be on his shoulders. Change is ours to embrace, together. With a flicker of realization, their faces transformed, shifting from skepticism to understanding. Ruth took a gentle step back, feeling the weight lift just a little. They were all grappling with their truths, hoping to unearth something more meaningful. Mr. Thompson glanced at Ruth, then the diners, a wave of gratitude washing over him. I might be Leonard, I'll own that. But I'm also ready to show you I'm not just an embodiment of the past. I believe that, Ruth said fiercely, her faith sinking deep. The grace to change is not lost on any of us. Let us see how far this belief can take us together. Just then, Grayson stepped forward again, his posture tense. You know what will happen when the others hear this. You'll be risking everything. Ruth squared her shoulders, the resolve bubbling over within her. Then we'll face the consequences together. Fear can only thrive in shadows. It's time we all walk into the light. As the diner hummed with uncertainty, something pure began to emerge within an acknowledgement of shared humanity. Ruth held her breath as a sense of understanding wrapped around them. Let us face this together, folks, Mr. Thompson's voice shook. You're right, I owe you the truth. But we hold the keys to each other as potential. Together, we can redefine our community or shatter it with doubt. That, dear friends, is our choice. The room seemed to glow, an amalgamation of stories, each intertwined, echoing through their hearts. Suddenly, in the midst of that overwhelming silence, a voice broke through the tension, rippling with clarity. Stand tall. We won't let fear fracture our hope. We are more than our pasts. With that thunderous affirmation, the diner erupted in applause, the camaraderie swirling like light through the cracks of doubt and hesitation. Ruth's heart swelled, tears of strength glistening as she glimpsed the new beginnings forming in front of her like dawn breaking over troubled waves, a promise to heal together. Everyone felt it, the sweet scent of possibility wrapping itself around them. They were not just patrons in a diner anymore, they were a family sealed with stories, forging unbreakable bonds. And as the diner's lights twinkled overhead, the shadows of the past began submitting to the sheer brightness of their unified courage, a love strong enough to overcome anything. Now this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every little bit helps us spread the joy of transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your voices matter. And wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us illuminate the world together.